Hi guys, welcome to the 5th video for chapter 12. At the end of the 4th video I had an error. Some of my preferences didn't seem to be pulling through and things were misaligned. Well, actually all the preferences were pulling through, but the reason things weren't misaligned is I hadn't specified a height for all those labels when I set my constraints. And there were 3 of them that didn't have any text, and so it was setting them to a height of 0 because no bigger height was needed. So what I changed, I went in to my storyboard. I checked all my outlets and they were fine. That's why I had the assistant editor open, and I added, and you can still see here they were all selected. I added a bunch of constraints for the heights of them all to be 21. And they're all down here. Let's see if I can make this bigger. No, that's leading. No, they go with the individual things. So the authorization code label constraints, it just has a constraint that the height is 21, and that got added for everything. That fixed my alignment problem. And then I went in and I put in, I hadn't specified a rank, I hadn't specified a T or a gadget, so I specified those things in the settings app, and it all showed up fine at that point. So it was really a constraints error. So you can see here I've got the rank. I misspelled lieutenant. There's a U in there, and I had left out, put in a T and a gadget, and everything lined up fine when I did that after I added those constraints. So that's all good. What we'd like to do now is in the other view controller of the tab view, we want to show you you can change settings from within the app as well as within the settings app. So we're going to do that. We're not going to go through the laborious task of being able to change them all. We'll just set it up so you can change the whether the warp drive is engaged and the warp factor, and a button to take you directly to the settings app if you want to do that. So we're going to obviously have to edit the second view controller. So let's do that. We'll need, let's find the second view controller, and need to add some labels. Oops, from here. We'll need 1, 2 labels. A switch. A slider. Let's move this down some. I've got too many buttons. The book puts in the images, the rabbit and the turtle here. I'm not going to bother with it. And we're also going to have a button at the bottom to take us to the settings app. So let's label that open settings app. Let's make our slider numerically have the right properties. Initially it'll be 5, though that's going to get set when the defaults are loaded, and a 1 and a 10. Okay, and we'll set that, and that's fine to leave that on. That's the user interface we want. I'm going to put in some constraints, I guess. Let's see, let's constrain this thing. Let's set its width, its height, and its distance to the top and left. Here we'll do the same. Width, height, distance to the top and the thing above it. We'll have these things match up in the center lines. Align vertical centers, and we'll do the same here. Oops. I'm going to see if I can get rid of this leading edge things. And let's see, I want to align the vertical centers of these. I don't think I've managed to successfully do that yet. And I think we're good. It may look like garbage. Let me just run it, and I'll have to delete some constraints if that's going to be a mess. Yeah, I needed to specify distance to the next object. Okay, so let's stop that. Go here. I want to add a left constraint. Actually, you can do it for both of them at the same time. Still not liking something there. Okay, let me pin them to the right side also, and hopefully that'll be good. Oops, nothing selected. I think that's got everything. I'll check it one more time before we go and edit code. I probably should have aligned that button at the bottom too. But it's showing up, so I'm not going to fool with it. You would obviously need to set some constraints for the button to in a real production app. Okay, so we got that. Let's work on our second view controller now. And to save time, we'll mostly grab code from the textbook examples. We're going to need outlets here for the switch and the slider. We'll need ways to get connected to those. We're going to need action methods for the switch, the slider, and the buttons, so I'll grab those. And they're pretty straightforward. We'll change the default setting to whatever value we get when the engine switch is tapped or the warp drive slider is slid. And when we want to go to the settings app, we have a URL for it, and we'll just open that application. We need the life cycle methods of application. View will appear, view will disappear, refresh, which is simpler because there aren't as many things to refresh, and also the on engine switch tapped event handler. I'm sorry, the application will enter foreground Objective-C code just like we did in the other app. And these do the same thing. Register and unregister the selector, and copy values from the defaults as needed. So warp drive is engaged, warp drive is nearly 10. We'll go to the second view controller. And we get a crash. So we need to figure out why we're crashing there. Found nil for the warp drive key and the warp factor key. Okay, I'm going to go to the settings app and check the warp drive and warp factor there to make sure they're actually there. Warp drive is engaged, warp factor looks like nearly 10, that's all good. So now why, when we go to that screen, are those not found? It's in refresh fields that things die. And that would be on in view will appear, or app will enter foreground, that has to be running. I want to look at what I'm doing in app delegate and make sure that's right. I put it in did finish launching with applications. That looks good. Oh, I don't think I've hooked up those outlets. That's it. So let's go hook up our outlets and action methods. So pretty basic kind of mistake, but glad we managed to figure that out. Okay, so I need this and I need the assistant editor. And boom, there we go. That's exactly the problem. Didn't connect those things up. So let's connect the outlets. Engine switch, warp factor slider, and the action methods. On engine switch tapped, on warp slider dragged, and on settings button tapped. Okay, let's try that. I've said several times in the course, and I'll say again, I think it's somewhat useful for you to see me trying to debug things and just the process of what I look at, having written a bunch of apps and trying to figure out why things work and don't work. That being said, just sitting here watching a non-moving screen of me thinking is of limited value. Sometimes I'll do it offline. It looks like this is now working. Let's turn that off and move that to mid slider. Go back to the first thing, and those look right. Go back to the second, and now we'll open the settings app and see if it looked like it captured the values there that we had changed. So this finishes us up for this app, and I'll see you again in the next module.